Yep.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Nature Lecture Series sponsored by the Trap Rock Ridge Land Trust and the Bloomfield Parks, Recreation, and Leisure Services Department. My name is Matthew Mace. I'm the Assistant Director of Bloomfield Parks and Rec. I'll be hosting the thing. For those of you that haven't joined us before, if a question comes up that you have, go ahead and put that in the chat in the Q&A section, and we will go back and read those questions off at the end of the session with it. A couple of housekeeping notes for us tonight. Our paint night was canceled for this Friday. It's going to be moved to next Friday, February 13th. So we have that coming up. And with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Paula Jones from the Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. I'm Paula Jones, Vice President of Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy. Thank you for coming to the second webinar in the 2025 Nature Lecture Series. Matt's already talked about the fact that we co-sponsor these webinars. Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy's footprint now includes 4 towns: Bloomfield, West Hartford, East Granby, and most recently, Windsor. Our mission is to protect open space and to promote public appreciation of the natural environment across our region from the ridgeline to the rivers. Trap Rock has 2 upcoming events: a winter hike at Spear Preserve on February 22nd, and our final nature lecture series on March 5th, The Dark Side of Light, presented by Marjorie Winters of Roaring Brook Nature Center. For more information about these events and Trap Rock in general, you can check out our website. Just Google Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy. So without further ado, tonight's topic is the nature of Wintonbury Hills Golf Course, with presenters Brad Klein and Dennis Petruzzelli. Mr. Klein is a nationally recognized golf course journalist, author of books, and consultant who also chairs Bloomfield's golf committee. And Mr. Petruzzelli is Wintonbury Hills certified golf superintendent. So at this point, I will turn it over to Dennis. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be with you tonight. I'm honored to be at Wintonbury Hills, which is a phenomenal property. And I'm glad to be there where I can continue to enhance the work that's been done environmentally there, to continue to make it a positive experience, positive environment, and we will continue making it positive as we go along. Thank you.
If you could pull up the PowerPoint. This is the high electric moment where we find out if we are, there we go. All right. My name is, we can go to the next slide. Welcome, everybody. It's great on a night like this to indulge in a bit of outdoor. As Dennis said, he's the golf course superintendent. I should point out that there are, in the United States, 15,000 golf courses, 20,000 superintendents. He's one of 1,000 who's what's called certified CGCS, which means that he's gone above and beyond his basic education and keeps up to date with the latest technology and methods of management. And so we're really proud to have him as our golf course superintendent. My name is Brad Klein. I'm the chair of the Town of Bloomfield Golf Advisory Committee. I also am a professional full-time golf course historian and journalist. I worked for Golf Week magazine and the Golf Channel for close to 30 years, running all sorts of things and writing about golf courses. I've written 12 books on the subject, consulted all over the world, and I'm very proud to be part of the Bloomfield Golf Course. It started back in, we can go to the next slide. The golf course, for those we started it actually in 1995 when I called the best golf course architect in the world, Pete Dye, and told him that he was going to design a golf course for the town of Bloomfield for $1, which was about $999,000 below his going rate. And I twisted his arm and he agreed, and he came to Bloomfield. And it took 9 years of permitting, and we finally got the golf course done, opened it up in 2004. We hired a management company that runs it for us. The company is Indigo Golf. Dennis Petruzzelli, the superintendent, is an employee of Indigo Golf, and they work hand in hand with the golf committee and with the council and the leisure services department to operate the golf course. And I could just tell you that it's one of the few departments in the town that provides both a leisure service that people enjoy and it makes money. So we bank quite a bit, about $300,000 a year. It's an operating profit, and we're self-sustaining. So let's move on to the site itself. The golf course is in the west side of town, occupies about a 220-acre site just to the east of Doncaster Road, under the shadow, or the afternoon shadow of Talcott Mountain. And the golf course sits in a kind of a basin between Talcott Mountain and the reservoir. I think it's reservoir number 2 out there. And it's a beautiful public golf course. It's owned by the town of Bloomfield. It's operated by a company, and it's very affordable, and we have very favorable rates, and everybody's welcome to come out and play it. And in the winter, when the golf operation is closed, you are welcome to walk it. I would advise staying on the cart paths. There are signs directing you, but it's a lovely walk, and a number of us made that walk on New Year's Day. Next slide. About, I think, 90 of us in a walk organized by the Trap Rock Land Conservancy. It was a bit of a break in the weather. The temperature was in the low 40s, and we had a nice 2.5-mile walk up around the track, up to the hill and back. And it was a great opportunity to spend some time enjoying this heavily managed wildlife habitat and sanctuary that also serves as a golf course. Now, we'll get into the details in a second here, but let's move on to the next slide. The golf course, you can see that dot, I hope, marking Wintonbury Hills. It's again, as I said, it's off in the west section of town, and there's the Talcott Mountain running north-south. That ridge is a function, by the way, the Talcott Mountain is a function of the Ice Age. And as the Wisconsin Glacier withdrew and melted, a lot of the washout sloshed into the east side, and it made Bloomfield about 25% of the total land mass of our 29 square acres are actually designated as wetlands. And so it's a great habitat area. The town has done a very good job of preserving both open space and those wetlands. And the golf course is itself surrounded by wetlands. When we built the golf course, and the permitting process was very specific about that, we were very mindful of avoiding any impact on the 219-acre site. I think we managed to avoid the wetlands, and we also managed to make the golf course playable. But the main thing is that we were able to utilize a site that had both wetlands and then also occasional pockets of sand that had washed out onto the east side. And so it gave the land the rolling character and the beauty and the elevation change that is such a marked part of the property. If we can move on. That's the golf course. That's the routing or the sequence of holes. It starts down at the bottom where the clubhouse is off Terry Plains Road, and it meanders up north, comes around what we call returning nines, two nines, total of 18 holes. So you go out and back. It's a nice journey. And along the way, you come into contact with the reservoir on the east side, on the right of this image. There are woods to the north. There's a big open wetlands area to the west. And when we've got a tremendous amount of wildlife as a result, we'll get to the inventory in a minute, but we have inventoried it. And it's part of what makes the experience of this managed site so beautiful. Next image. Again, here's the routing plan, just a kind of a schematic showing the way in which it abuts the Tungus flood water retention reservoir on the east. There are two large ponds on the golf course itself. One of them is a holding tank for the irrigation water. We take water out of that reservoir on the east side, and we pump it over a hill, and it sits in, I think it's about, a 6-acre lake. Is that right, Dennis? That pond between 7th and 8th hole? And that becomes the water's irrigation source for the golf course. Okay. Next. Here's an aerial view. I love when I fly a lot, and when I fly into the airport, I always try to sit on a side that I think is going to bring me into contact with the golf course. And trying to see what holes we've got here. This is coming in down below. It looks like 18, 17, and 10, and to the left, I've got long 14. So this is looking southeast, back toward town from the top of, right atop the ridge, Talcott Mountain. Okay, next. Here's a better view of the site. This was the old Peterson farm, and it had been used for corn, before that cattle. By the time we got hold of it, it had essentially been abandoned as a farm. And through a combination of purchase and lease of some of the site from the MDC, the Metropolitan District Commission, we put together a parcel of just over 200 acres that was adequate for a golf course. That 200 acres includes about 40 acres of wetlands. This is a view from Doncaster looking southeast, back toward the club, what became the clubhouse. The clubhouse now occupies what used to be the old Peterson farm property, the house there. All right, let's move on. That's the conversion. I always like before and after. So that's looking at the 18th hole across from, again, the same site. The power lines would be just to our left as you're looking to the southeast here. This is between Doncaster and the golf course proper is about a 35-acre wetlands area. We just stay away from it. It fills up with water sometimes. There's lots of wildlife. Anyone who knows Terry Plains Road knows that there are signs out there for bear crossings, deer crossings, and snapping turtles. So we share the site. Okay. Our clubhouse, we have a very modest clubhouse. We decided not to look like a country club. We wanted to focus on golf and to keep costs down. So we have a very small clubhouse. It's only about 5,800 square feet, I think. And then we have an event tent. And we've done a lot of fundraising there. The Trap Rock Land Trust. I don't know if Paul is going to announce another of the dining events that we have, but we hold it, we start and end there at that tented area behind the clubhouse looking out on the golf course. And then we disperse to the private homes for the dinners. So it's always a great fundraising event. And again, it's a very modest, simple clubhouse. We're not trying to be anything fancy. We're just trying to let people play golf, walk around, and enjoy the walk in the park. Okay. Here's Pete Dye. He's the architect of the golf course. We're the most famous designer, fellow with a brilliant mind, very creative, and it was a lot of work to get the golf course permitted through what was then the State Department of Environmental Protection. We had endless meetings over several years. We actually moved to this site from an earlier site. It was a lot of work, and we never could have done it without Pete and with his design associate, Tim Liddy. Okay. And Pete was there for the opening, and he was also there for the shaping. So he did some of the handwork himself. He's on a Sand Pro right here, shaping out, which is what he does. He's one of these architects who not afraid to get his hands dirty. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2000 2001, I think it was. He was a great friend of the town, and he loved coming here. And we had lots of, give you an idea of what he was like, we had lots of fancy dinners at Subway when he was here. That was his favorite restaurant. So we'd go to dinner at Subway. Okay. The golf course itself was on a partially wooded site. It was both the Peterson farm and a very densely, probably tertiary growth out there from an overgrown farm area. And we did a lot of work on the ground to get it into shape. So this is just a couple of scenes from what it looked like back in, this would have been 2001 when we got on the site finally and started the work. There was about 12 acres of clearing that we had to do of trees. Most of it was still an open site and still is. Go ahead. And here's a view. This is from the left side of what's now the 13th hole, but looking southeast over the reservoir. And you can see that this was an area used by hunters for stalking, or not stalking, hanging out, waiting for prey. So one of the interesting things is when we got to the site and walked it, there were literally hundreds of thousands of shotgun shells that had been left on the ground. And so it was a hunting area, and we cleaned a lot of that, had to clean it all up in order to build the golf course. So we think we've actually enhanced the wildlife habitat and made it safe rather than providing hunting terrain. Go ahead. The construction of a golf course is pretty complicated. A lot of scientific measurements of various sands and gravel. It's a very expensive process. The whole golf course in that time cost $5.4 million. And for the golf course, with everything else, clubhouse and all that, it was about 11.4. The town paid for it with a bond issue that has been subsequently paid off early. But it was a 2-year construction process from 2002 to 2004. By the way, Dennis he's seeing these construction photos in the preparation of this talk. I put these old photos together. These are Dennis this is now in his 3rd year, I think, and these were the first time he had seen these photos. I have many more, by the way. We could sit one night and drink a beer and show you the before and after of every hole. But this is what it looks like before.
Or 2.
What's that? Yeah. Go ahead.
2.
Right. Okay, next. And this is planning. This is this would have been the Department of the Army Corps of Engineers actually met us outside on the site. The power lines were right there. We had to build the golf course in between the power lines, under them, through them, and around them. So we had a lot of environmental issues to deal with also in terms of the wetlands, because we didn't want to build a golf course where you were hitting across water. We wanted the water to be on the side and the wetlands areas to be out of play, which we managed. I think I still have about 9 sets of plans for this golf course in the garage somewhere that we went through various, every time we went to the state DEP, they said no, and we had to go back to the drawing board. So, all right. There we go. That's the Army Corps. You can see the old remnants of the barn, the Peterson Farm barn, before we took it down. That's now the site of the clubhouse, by the way. Okay. And a lot of labor. This is building a golf green, which is like a layer cake. I'm not going to get too much into the details here, but it's a lot of physical work and a lot of detail to make things so that the golf course drains well, that there's good root structure. When you have good root structure in the grass, those roots act as a filter, and the water that percolates down into the water table that's been put on top of the golf course to irrigate it, it gets cleansed to the point where it recharges the watershed below. So it's very important to have proper drainage, which we have. And some of us got involved in the actual construction of it as well. That's me shaping out a green, fine shaping the green, I think. All right, we can move on.
Looks like a young man.
Yeah, that was, how long ago? That was That was 22 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'll just go through this. We'll get to the good stuff in a minute here, but this is just the evolution of the site, the transformation of it. Go ahead. And a lot of work, a lot of wires, a lot of dirt, a lot of dust. Okay.
Mhm.
A lot of broken vehicles too. All right,
Mhm.
we'll keep going here. And here's a before and after just to show you. This is the 12th hole, the little downhill part 3. This is before with the all material massed and the circuit around it defining the target. Go ahead. As it's growing in, and finally when it's done. Next, there you go. Took a lot of photos. Keep going. 15th hole, to the northernmost part of the golf course, protrudes out as far as you can get. And this was the site. Big wetlands on the right, which we couldn't touch. Go ahead. Evolution of it. There it is. Go ahead. And finally, our most photographed hole. This is the 14th hole. When we started the routing plan, we actually had 4 holes along that reservoir. DEP hammered us down to 1 for all sorts of reasons. They were very careful about, what's that? Dennis, what was that? The DEP was very careful about preserving a vegetative edge and those trees along the reservoir. We had lots of snapping turtles watching us during the construction process. There was one encounter with the superintendent's dog at the time, and the snapping turtle won that battle. They tend to win every battle. Go ahead. As it's growing in, yeah. And I think we have one more here. Yeah, that's what the hole looks like when it opened. It's a fantastic hole. That whole left ridge, by the way, is sand. There's a little finger of sand that extends several hundred yards in from the west. And when I play the golf hole, I can't reach this green in 2, but I know that if I can hit my second shot onto that sandy ridge, it's the firmest, hardest surface on the golf course. It'll bounce forward. So you sort of learn how to use the geology to play the golf course. You certainly don't want to go to the right, but it's actually a beautiful view. And if this is a really gorgeous stretch, and it's worth walking out to here during off season to observe this pond. Just on the other side of it is the public garden that's accessible down Tunxus Avenue. So that would just be to the right of you on this view. We're looking north and that. And again, this is the one area we created a wetlands, about a 2-acre wetlands, I think we created. This was a mitigation project and very successful. You can see the buffer along the edge. This is very important. We're using grasses as filters. Dennis, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how that works, but the runoff and what the environmental function of that vegetative border is. Can you speak to that at all?
Sure. So we always want to create a buffer. Creates actually does several things. Not only does it acts as a filter, but if we do get geese on the property, they don't like to walk through high grass. So we don't prefer to have geese on the property because they're very messy, but it actually serves, they don't like that high grass barrier. So it does several things. And it actually looks very nice, that little natural look to it, that little brow, it gives it a nice little Scottish look to the golf hole.
Yeah, this is one of the many areas where, from a playability standpoint, first of all, you're not supposed to hit it in there. And if you've hit it in, you've missed. So there are golf courses that try to manicure and keep a sharp, clean edge because they want to prefer to set up the property for the golfer. And what we're doing here is basically saying this is an environmental concession that we think is really important. So while it's an inconvenience to the golfer, they may lose a golf ball. Very few people are actually there, and if they are, too bad. We think it's worth it. So this is a really good point where in the kind of back and forth between golf and in the environment, we sided with the ecology here. If you were on the PGA Tour, they'd cut all this down and they'd paint a white line and you'd have a red line, I guess, and a border, but we don't do that. All right. And again, that's just behind that green, the 17th. Power lines, we managed to avoid them. But we got that bridge. We'll talk a little bit more. You see that bridge to the left. Very incredible construction to avoid being in the wetlands themselves. They're kind of hanging above the floor of the wetlands when we built them. All right, keep walking, keep going. So the golf course, we like to think of it, and by the way, Dennis, you can, to Dennis's credit, he just got the golf course recertified, if I have this right, with Audubon International Cooperative Sanctuary. You want to talk a little bit about what's involved in that, Dennis?
Certainly. So this is a very detailed process of inventorying the property, showing what you're doing to protect it, what you're doing to enhance it. It originally was certified in 2006. Greg Du Bois, I believe, was the superintendent at that time, who grew in the golf course from construction. And since that time, it has been maintained as a certified cooperative sanctuary through Audubon International. It's a lot of work as far as water analysis to ensure that your water, you're not trending into negative territory on your water testing, that your water is increasing, you're enhancing it, and certain projects that you may want to add to the program to further enhance environment as well. It was a fun project, and we look forward to keeping it going as far as a certified property. I think it's something we should be very proud of. It's just a phenomenal property. It's just so much wildlife out there. It's just a special place where every morning when we go out there to start our day, and it's just between the sunrises that are spectacular and different every day, and to see the very, very life. I'm lucky to be here because it's really an interesting place and a fun place to be.
So just to go through some of the statistics here, that's part of that. It's a 219-acre envelope. That's exactly 1/3 of a square mile. Only 80 acres of that is maintained at all by some form of engagement with mowers. 30 acres of that is untreated fine fescue, which is a very wispy native grass that has a tremendous flexibility in terms of its endurance and a beautiful flowering sequence during the year. We have 91 acres of wetlands within that overall envelope. 18 acres are I wouldn't say maintained, but kept as an environmentally sensitive area. No carts are allowed. Golfers are not allowed. We have what we call geofencing. Geofencing means that we have a technology that we control where carts can go, and they can't go into those environmentally sensitive areas because the cart shuts down. And so every once in a while, a wayward golfer who's trying to go near there, there's a beeping sound and the cart shuts down and they have to back up. They're always embarrassed because it only goes at 2 miles an hour and they feel like an idiot, and everybody knows what they've done. And it registers. We keep a log, a central log, because we have not just geofencing, but we monitor it on a central watch post from the clubhouse. So we are able to maintain actively those areas. I've got a 4-page list right here in front of me of documentation required. 97 species of birds, whether resident, migratory, or winter residents. Many of those have fledged. 14 different mammals. We've got monarch butterflies. We've got lots of butterfly bush out there. We've got amphibians all over the place. Turtles. I'll show you in a minute here. So it's really an amazing place, and we really work hard to keep it that way. Next, so the overall management strategy that Dennis has adopted is Dennis, maybe you want to explain these 3 cultural practices. low fertilizer, pesticide, and water efficiency?
Absolutely. So this is not something that I've done just at Wintonbury. This is something I've believed in over the years. I've been doing this a long time. I've been in the golf course industry, 50, 52 years now.
Like you
I've
started,
been a
you
golf course,
must have started as a kid.
13 years old. So
Wow.
I've been a golf course superintendent over 30 years. So you learn a few things over the years, and as you get older and learn more things, you realize, I don't need to do as much as doing, and it's not good for the environment. So you come to find out you don't need as much fertilizer than you really think, and research has proven that. You don't need as much pesticide as you think, and research has proven that. You don't need as much water as you think, and research has proven that. Not only has research proven it, you've observed it. So we're putting very low inputs into this property and still getting phenomenal results. A lot of that has to do with not only the way the course is built as far as surface drainage, how they graded the land, added drainage in low spots where it was needed as far as piping and catch basins, but and the newer improved grasses as far as being a newer golf course, so you have the more drought tolerant grasses and grasses that are bred to need less fertilizer and less water. So we have all these benefits working in our favor, and we're just trying to constantly, how can we make it better with less? And not only is less great for the environment, it's great for the pocketbook. So
Yeah,
it's
less
a win-win.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's going to get more expensive with the way things are going lately. So as long as we can continue to put out a great product with minimal inputs, everybody wins.
Yeah, the three best friends of a superintendent and of a golf course are sand, sun, and air. And we have an open site, lots of sunlight, air movement, and a lot of top dressing to create a growing medium that drains well and is healthy. So, and Dennis has done a great job. We've just done a survey of the efficiency. We've done a survey of the area courses that we compete with, and we are the lowest budget, high quality golf course of any municipality in the state. So we're doing pretty well. All right, next couple of little survey of the wildlife out there. That's an easy one. We find these all the time. Keep going. Bloomfield, famous for our bears. Maybe not as famous as Simsbury and Avon and Canton, but they're out there. Black bear. Can you tell us what's going on here? There's a bobcat right up in the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bobcat's waiting.
We've seen bobcat behind 16 green going to the bridge at 17. There's a family that likes to live in there.
And the next,
you
yeah.
don't
We lost you there a little bit, Dennis.
there's a family of bobcat that we find that
And they're up by 16th hole. Yeah. Next photo.
Yeah, bridge area. So they're very you don't see them very often, but they live there in that area.
And this one is this a station that you've put up by the 6th hole?
So that is on by 8T as you leave the 8T complex on the left side. That's been there before I got here.
So that's on the other side of the reservoir, or the other side of the holding pond. The holding pond.
It's on the it's in the native area.
Good. Keep going. We got a few more here. Our turtles, resident turtles. I guess that's box turtle and the snapping turtle. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's beaver evidence, obviously. I don't know if they've created a dam yet, but they're out there.
Very, very active on the 14th hole the last few months.
That's the one along the edge of the reservoir. Sure.
Reservoir, correct.
Right. Yeah, that's a great photo. And then these native areas, maybe you want to talk a little bit about what we've got going here, and lots of butterfly bush too.
Yes. So since I've gotten to the property, I have not chemically treated these native areas like they've had been in the past. I'm a firm believer of letting things grow and see what flowers. And this area, this is behind the 17th green and 10th green. And it's just phenomenal. Look, the purple flower, I'm not quite sure. I've taken a picture of these to identify the plants, but the
That's not
purple
loosestrife.
flowers, they're spectacular. It's just amazing what can grow if you just let it. I just don't want to treat any of these areas. And we're trying to encourage monarch butterflies because we're a monarch sanctuary. And I don't want to go out and kill milkweed if we're trying to encourage monarch butterflies. So I'm just a firm believer. Just let nature do its thing and let's let it grow. It's just beautiful.
All right, next photo. No, how many more? We don't have very many more. And you've got bird boxes out there too. I should point out that the certification process for the Audubon Sanctuary required identification, and it requires extensive habitat enhancement. So these are, I don't know if these are bluebird boxes or.
Correct. They're bluebird boxes. We have 18 on property. My wife works part-time for me, and that was her job to check on these. She was the bird mother, and she was checking on the eggs and documenting what was going on. And we had a phenomenal response to egg laying. She had it all documented, and I think just about 17 or of the 18 were all bluebirds. And we had some I think it was house sparrow was in one other we had to chase away, but we just got a tremendous response and the eggs all fledged and it was just a great experience.
Right. Right.
That's spectacular.
Yeah. So this is what happens when you play golf at Wintonbury or go for a walk at Wintonbury Hills in the winter. You'll see some of this. Next, and I think yeah. My wife is going to laugh because I'm terrible at identifying animals or birds. I don't know if that's a
That's an
heron or
egret.
an egret. Yeah. Yeah.
An egret, yeah.
That's probably 17 as well, isn't it? The
It's hard to say. We have several. We have in season. We have several. We have a white and we have a gray heron, white egret.
Great. And just a word about these bridges that we have. We have 3 bridges on the golf course that literally span wetlands. And these were built to very acute specifications because the construction process itself required that we stay out of the wetlands. So we had to kind of build them moving forward one step at a time rather than putting equipment in the actual floor of the wetlands. This is the one from 16 to 17. We have 3 bridges. They were $200 a linear foot. I think we spent $250,000 back in 2004. Eventually, we're going to have to replace these, and it's going to cost, I think, $640,000 to replace the 3 of them. We're going to sequence that in. That's why we take our money and put it in for long-term capital improvement. But these are crucial to link the golf course, but they're also fantastic spans that are worth walking. We walked over this one during that the New Year's Day walk, by the way. It's really fascinating to look into the wetlands, which does they get lots of water. They're not just vernal pools. They get a lot of water. So these are beautiful bridges, and this is off season. So you're welcome to come out and walk in the off season. The golf course is available. There's parking up there. We'd encourage everybody to walk on the cart paths, which are identified and easy to follow. So I think with that, what do we have next? You were talking about sunrises. This is from the back of the 13th green looking southeast. This is what it looks like. It, there's, there's no more beautiful place. How should I put this? There are lots of beautiful places, but a golf course is a beautiful place. Early in the morning, late in the afternoon. It's a fantastic environment, and we're very grateful to have it. I think that's it. Do we have another one?
No, I believe that's it, Brad.
All right, let's open it up. I hope there's some questions and comments that people have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our first question is from Jeffrey Atwood, and he asks, what resources are used to keep the golf course green? Watering, fertilizing, pesticides, mowing, and where is the water for the watering drawn?
So we, like I've said prior, we've got to the point where we know what the grass needs as far as nutrition. We're not overfeeding because it's a waste. Plant can only use so much. It costs more if you're not efficient. If you're overfeeding, you're wasting money. So we feed only what the plant needs. Soil testing twice a year to make sure the soils are in optimum condition. Any deficiencies are addressed. So there again, we want to make sure the soils are healthy. If they're not healthy, we're going to suffer with the plant. The plant's not going to be strong. It's much like a house. If you have a strong foundation, you have a strong house. It's the same idea here. So we want to make sure the soil is solid and strong and addressed, and that'll give us a healthy plant. We want to minimize pesticides as much as possible. So if we have a healthy plant, we're able to do that. Green is not always great. We're talking about golf, where the golfer, all he cares about is playability. He doesn't care if it's green. If it's green, that's a bonus. I like to see that it's healthy. If it's green, to me, I like to try to see if I can get both worlds there. Get it healthy, strong, without overfeeding, without overtreating it. And maintain the proper playability so our customer is happy and it's a fun experience. Water we draw, like Brad had said, from the 7th hole is a pond. If we get low, we have the ability to draw off the reservoir. We have a transfer pump out there on the 14th hole. We have sensors set up so we have a low level sensor point where a contact point where if we get to it, it will kick in a transfer pump and bring the water up until we reach a high point, which shuts it off. So there's a sensor for low and sensor for high. So we can monitor that so we're not pulling too much water. Or by law, our permit, we're only allowed to bring out 250,000 gallons a day from that the reservoir, as well as our pond, our main pond that we pump out of. So we're very careful.
But you don't use nearly that, even
not even nearly. I most times I'm at 50% of that daily requirement. I'm really careful with the water. I hate watering. I want nature to do its thing. I want deeper roots. I want those roots to work hard to find the water in the soil. I'm not going to baby it. If we baby it, it makes it a weaker plant. We want a strong plant. Let it fight on its own. And it works. It's a great strategy and it works, and research has proven that. So hopefully that answers your question.
And actually, we've supported that. I've been writing about this for years in terms of firm and fast, so that a plant with deep roots, it has a lot more tolerance for diverse weather. It can endure. It can go dormant in some cases. Lots of the roughs do. The surface gets firm, and so for old people like myself, the ball rolls more, so we get an advantage of distance. And actually, we're catering to that ground game all through. So what's interesting is that we've adopted a management strategy for environmentally sensitive, low pesticide, low applications that also makes the golf course more fun to play. So it really works, and that's why, and I didn't get into this earlier, this is the highest rated municipal golf course in New England. It's nationally ranked by all the major golf course panels. And it looks beautiful because it's diverse. We sometimes get complaints that there are weeds, that the grass is brown, and our view is great. That's a good, healthy sign because it means that we've got a diverse plant population rather than a monostand. And we're really committed to that. So that's both environmentally sensitive and it makes sense because it's from a budget standpoint, it's less expensive to operate. So all the benefits accrue to that side of it.
So win-win. Our next question is from Paul Rapassi. Is there any plan to protect some of the trees from the beavers, specifically behind the 14th green? The large signature tree might benefit from protection around the base so that the beavers don't chew the bark.
Great question. Dennis?
My assistant and I were just talking about that today, matter of fact. We were thinking about putting some chain link fence around some desirable trees so we don't have any intrusion by the beaver or beavers. Pretty busy on 14. We want to make sure we don't lose anything that's really important out there. And that's something we are going to look into.
All right. Our next question was from Jeffrey Atwood again. At some point, could we identify the purple flower? If it's Joe Pieweed, that's good. If it's purple loosestrife, it's an invasive plant, and that would be bad.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Good question.
So I did identify it. It's not purple loosestrife. I have an app on my phone, and I don't remember what it was. I don't even know if it's still on there. But yeah, we want to make sure we want to take out anything that's invasive. We don't want it to take over. We want to make sure we have desirable wildlife and wildlife plants out there. So that's something we'll keep an eye on.
Okay. Next question or statement it's from Alexander Amendola. The purple plant in the wetland areas are likely all purple loosestrife, which is a non-native and highly invasive. But as Dennis was saying, he had identified it. We just weren't. It wasn't the loosestrife at that point. Okay. Next one is from Dory Albert. Can you walk your dog in the winter on the golf course?
Yes. Yes, you can.
But bring a plastic bag.
Dog, if it
advice for anybody.
We would appreciate you pick up. Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Next one is from Jeffrey Atwood again. Thank you for this great presentation. I'm a neighbor. I drive Terry Plains Road every day and admire the course. And thank you for keeping this jewel of Bloomfield so beautiful and well maintained. Okay.
Thank you.
Next one is from an anonymous attendee, and it asks, why is cross-country skiing prohibited if we stay on the same trails we walk on?
Good question. Thing that was in place before I got here. If I had to make an educated guess, I think we probably would try to keep traffic to cart paths only, and we don't want to do any damage to the grass if our snow layer is on the thin side, where we could be doing some injury to the plant even though it's dormant.
Okay. I think a lot of that is it's a very interesting question. The concern there is particularly keeping snow skiing traffic cross country off the greens. The greens are particularly sensitive. We don't cover them, as I recall, other than with some sand. And those are very sensitive areas that if the skiing diverts onto those, and once you have snow on the golf course, it's really impossible to distinguish between fairway, roughs, and greens. You can do a lot of long-term damage. So we've made that decision. I have to say that we've always tried to enhance the access that the non-golfing public has. There are some safety issues there are a lot of safety issues during the season about golf balls that hit these cart paths, and so we've unfortunately had to keep walkers off during the season. We've encouraged it off season, but the skiing has the potential to do really serious long-term damage.
Okay.
Thank you for that. It's something we are always agonizing about in terms of the operation of the golf course.
Next question is from Jeffrey Atwood. Aside from the bridges, which were mentioned, are there any other major capital expenditures that will come due in the future?
Yes. I've got a list of them, which I'm going to present to the town council on Monday. But over the next, just say 5 years, we're going to have to replace the roof on the clubhouse. We're going to have to redo the parking lot. There's ongoing maintenance with the cart barn. There's a lot of work that we have to do to maintain viable cart paths because they tend to break down under the combined impact of traffic and root structure underneath that bubbles up and breaks them up. And it's, I would say in 6 or 7 years, we're probably going to need a new irrigation system. Dennis, did I leave anything major out?
I think you got it all.
Oh, and we need to redo all the bunkers in about 6 years. So yeah, we're mindful of that. We're very careful about planning. We've been very good in the last few years of operating on a self-sustaining basis. We operate as an enterprise fund, which means it pays for itself. And we think with careful planning and continued operation, and I have to give kudos to the operating firm, Indigo Golf. What we've got, this is kind of inside baseball, so to speak, or inside golf. We have a pricing system. It turns out that the great majority of our play comes from folks who come in from out of town. So we have a very variable rate where the town resident is heavily discounted, and we basically punish people for coming into Bloomfield to play our golf course, and they are lined up, and we can't keep them away. And so we've got what we call dynamic pricing. So it's like an airline seat. So they're paying, in many cases, twice as much on the same day to play the same golf course. So we want the residents to use it, and we're thankful that we have so many non-residents who don't seem to care what they're paying. So that's the magic success formula. And we're hoping that will allow us to maintain those and meet those operational costs and bridges and cart paths and roofs and everything else that we have up there.
Mm-hmm. Next question is from Mercedes Larget. I was playing in New Hampshire. I was told that one of the few places where cattails remain is on golf courses. This is because of an invasive species called Phragmites.
Phragmites, yeah.
Phragmites, excuse me. It looked like a generic reed to me was taking over. Is this a concern for you? And do you do things to save or foster the growth of cattails?
So this is a unique situation where Eversource, who maintains the right-of-way of the power lines, actually comes in and treats for that. They come in once a year, sometimes twice a year, and they target just the Phragmites in the wetlands just to ensure it doesn't get out of control.
Okay.
That's a great question, by the way. Really helpful.
The next one is from an anonymous attendee, and I can speak a little bit to it, but they ask, can you speak about the development of a walking trail in the woods surrounding the course? I know that there are some walking trails in Reservoir 3, but I know it backs up to the back of the course, but I'm not sure of any other kind of walking trails in the wooded areas right on the course or near the course.
Not aware of any.
I'm looking it up on my app here because there is a road that we have some access to. I always forget the name of the road. Where is it? Behind the fifth hole.
Is it Beacon Hill?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Paula. Well, Paula, maybe you could speak to that issue. We don't have a direct access through and around the golf course, but we have some roads or paths, I guess, that approach it. Could you talk about that?
Sure. Trap Rock actually, sorry, I'm being prompted to turn my video screen on. Trap Rock Ridge Land Conservancy actually owns a couple of several parcels up on Beacon Hill. I think the town still owns one parcel, But the idea, and there are some social trails that have been developed kind of from the cul-de-sac at the end of Beacon Hill. Something we would like to do is enhance that maybe and see if we can get some connectivity down to whether it's Reservoir 2 or Reservoir 3, to that area off of Tunxus. So there's always been a desire to do that, working with the course, and that's something we've kind of talked about over years. So I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it, but it's a great question, and it's something I think people would enjoy.
Excellent. Next question is from Lori Brown. She wants to thank you for your leadership by example. And she asks, have you eliminated the use of neonicotinoid pesticides?
So it had been used in the past, and we are presently on the forefront of phasing it out and going to alternatives.
Excellent.
And you've done the same with Roundup, haven't you?
We don't use Roundup.
There you go.
Excellent. The next one is from Catherine Delesko. I think she's talking about the purple flowers we were talking about before. She says that it's New York ironweed. And then
that would have been the last photo, I would think. I think that was the last photo.
Okay.
Now, she may correct me, but I think that's certainly the last photo.
And then Catherine Lyons, I think it's Liatris. Okay. And then, so last question at this point, unless anybody else wants to get in there quickly. Alexander Amendola, do you test the water quality in the wetlands area?
So as part of our Audubon process, we not only test our irrigation water at the 7th hole pond, we're also testing 2 sites on the reservoir at number 14. One spot behind the tee at 14 and another spot at the green of 14. We would, in my past experience, any water testing that I've done where I've had an inlet and an exit, I've always found that wherever the water was coming in, it left in better quality, and that goes to the filtering aspects of a solid, healthy stand of turf grass. And this is continued at Wintonbury as well. The water that we pull out of the reservoir, I would say, is an inlet, and then when it exits the property, when it gets to the pond at 7 and out, I would believe we definitely are it's leaving in a better state.
All right. Well, that is the.
Actually, can I make a couple?
Yep. Absolutely. Go right ahead.
Wait till the end. Yeah, just a couple of comments. First, I'm very happy to hear that you're tapering off on the neonics. There was an article, I think, in the Current recently about water testing in the rivers in Connecticut, and they're finding the presence of neonics in the river, so it's kind of having an impact. So, that's always a fight, just in terms of I think it's prohibited now for residential use. It's off the shelves, but, it's still being used. So that will help, and I'm happy to hear that. Want to do a plug for the beauty of the golf course. I'm involved with Trees for Bloomfield. I'm one of the co-chairs of that, along with Sharon Mann, and we do a photo contest every year. And we've had a couple of winning shots, winning photos, beautiful photos taken at the golf course. So a shout out for the beauty again. And then finally on the beavers, Trap Rock had an issue with beavers and flooding on one of its properties. And I can't speak to the technicalities of it, but we put in like a float device, beaver deceiver, which can't always be used, but I'm just throwing it out there as a humane way to address potential problems. It kind of keeps everybody happy because it fools the beaver into thinking, the dam is holding and everything else, but it lets enough water flow so that
you know, everybody's happy and it doesn't create real flooding issues. Yep. Oh, and I'm getting a prompt to say something about snowshoeing. Is the, you know, I've always understood that cross country was a concern, but snowshoeing on the cart paths is okay. Is that okay?
I think
I
so.
don't think that would be a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's snowshoes are bigger, kind of spreads out kind of your
Mhm.
the force. So okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Excellent. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Dennis and Bradley. It was a great presentation, a lot of great information and good pictures out there. And thank you for joining us. And we hope to see everybody next month on March 5th for the darker side of light.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. You guys have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next month.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Take care,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.